So, James, I've been talking about this all morning. Tell the folks about the trip.
Okay, so we went to Madera County, which is just north of Fresno.
Right.
And Thursday we had lunch and spoke with Rick Farinelli's A-team.
The A-team. And the A-team work for the government.
Yeah, just
Right.
various leaders who are dealing with poor kids, poor families, foster care. They have a Big Brothers Big Sisters program. Just there's about 10 of them who were there.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, it was very well received.
Yeah, the
when you
sheriff,
spoke to them.
foster care, and all them were there. And they voted to bring me there, and they won the vote.
Yep.
So I definitely appreciate that. Supervisor Rick Farinelli bought a box of my brand new book, The Antidote, Healing America of the Poison of Hate, Blame, and Victimhood, and he gave each one of them a copy
Yep.
of the book. That was Thursday when we arrived there. He picked us up at the airport and took us right to this luncheon.
And they were all listening intently.
They sure were. And asking good questions.
Yep, totally accepted it.
It was mind-blowing. It was so unexpected. You know, I didn't know what to expect, but
Yeah.
it was a blessing.
It bodes very well for that city, that county.
Yes.
So then that afternoon, we went to the Juvenile Detention Center in Madera County.
Yep.
A couple of the boys were graduating from their program, and then a lot of them were kind of fresh, bad kids.
There were about 20 of them in the room there
Yep.
at the graduation.
Yep.
And mostly Hispanic and white.
Right.
Yeah. Well, their age was like, what, 16, 17?
Some of them were 15, 14.
Yeah, they looked very like little kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
Juveniles.
And they all had trouble with their parents.
Oh, yeah.
Father's not around, mother's on drugs or in jail, and don't have anyone to raise them.
So you spoke to them, and then you interacted with them in your presentation, and then afterwards you were able to interact with them one-on-one even more.
Yeah.
And it was nice to see, because a lot of them accepted what you were talking about.
They did. It's amazing to me how God has it set up where your children need the parents in the same manner that adults need God.
Yep.
And if you don't have your parents, good parents in your life goes off track. And in the same manner, if you don't have God in your life goes off track. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Not to you, not amazing. This woman said, "You think everything's amazing." Helen. That's her name?
I don't know.
Ohio.
I've lost track of who you're talking about.
Anyway.
So that evening, we went to the prison, Valley State Prison in Chowchilla. And about 8 or 10 inmates were there to greet us as we walked up with no guards around.
These are lifers.
And they started setting up for us. These
Yeah.
are the well-behaved ones. Set up about 150 chairs, and you spoke to them. You spoke to some of them before you gave your speech.
I know they had put a circle around me, asking me all these questions.
Yep.
And this was prior to the speech.
They were very open.
Yeah. They were like hungry for it.
Mm-hmm.
And they talked about in the circle before the meeting, there was 150 inmates in this auditorium. But before they came in, there were a group of guys setting up for the meeting. And after they finished setting up, they came over, introduced themselves to us. Then they started asking me questions.
Yep.
And once again, they were in there for murdering people.
Yeah.
It was not like fighting at a basketball game. They had murdered. One guy had murdered a woman that he tried to rob, and he said he killed her. And I asked why. He said because she didn't have any money on her.
She didn't have the money that he thought they thought that she had.
So it sounded like it was more than him robbing this woman.
Yeah.
So she didn't have the money, so they killed her. I'm like, you killed her? They're like, yeah, because she didn't have any money.
He said that he had a lot of anger.
Yeah.
And he was beating himself up over it every time that he sees a woman and a child together, putting himself through all that guilt.
You know, one point I made is that guilt, when people feel guilty, they have allowed Satan to cause them to judge themselves for what they did. Because what Satan does, what evil does, it clouds your judgment, and it convinces you to do something that you would not ordinarily do. And then once you do it, he kind of step back and let you see what you've done, and then he makes you judge yourself for it, and you feel all this guilt, and then you think that the guilt is from you or God, and you think God is punishing you, and so you hold on to this guilt as though the guilt is going to correct you, and it never does.
Yep.
So I told them, never, ever, ever hold on to guilt. All they're doing is setting you up to do it again. Anyway, more about the prison thing.
So after that, we went home. That was just the first day.
But tell them a little bit more about what happened at the prison.
At the prison?
Some of the things we heard.
Oh, there was well, most of the people were totally eating up what you were talking about. They lined up and talked to you afterwards.
Yeah. It was.
A couple of the black guys tried to challenge you and said, I love my mother and father. I made my own decisions, and they weren't influencing me. It was all my fault.
And that's why I told him, I said, so you made a decision to do whatever you did to go to prison.
He said, yeah, I love my mama.
And people were cracking up when I said that to him. I said, sir, you have never made a decision your whole life, and you never will make one. You are influenced.
Yep.
Either by good or evil. And he said, well, maybe the devil made me do it. Oh, yeah, whatever. It wasn't you.
He was pretty aggressive.
Yeah. And then the other guy came up in a wheelchair after the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
He rolled up on me. And, can I test your spirit? That's just like mama. That's just like those black Christian women. Not all of them, of course, but those that's really into the Bible and really evangelical. They call themselves evangelists. You've seen those, right?
There's a lot of people who are evangelists.
And so the Bible says,
they're not necessarily the bad ones.
The Bible says test the spirit, and they go around testing the spirit. I'm like, go sit down.
Philip in the Bible was an evangelist.
And where's Philip now? Thank you.
Well, he's dead, but he was a good guy.
Oh. And so this black guy in the wheelchair, can I test your spirit? Okay, whatever. Test my spirit? And he said, do you love Satan? I'm like, no, I don't love Satan. Do you? He's like, yeah, you're supposed to love Satan if you're of God, or whatever he said. And I said, okay, you can love him, but I don't. Goodbye.
But there were a lot of people. One white guy is 34 years old and said that he's going to talk to his mother tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the day after that event, because he was going to get the chance to talk with her, and he was going to, tell her, that he resented her or something like that. And
the one
her.
thing that they all, well, maybe two things, but the one thing they all had in common, they had a lot of anger.
Yeah.
And they come from.
But it wasn't apparent when we were there.
When you're looking at them, it doesn't seem that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's only when they open their mouths and start confessing it, they tell you how they feel.
Yeah.
And also, they all came from bad parents. And when you listen to the background, how these men were raised, it was awful. They had failing parents. And that anger that drove them to do what they did to get them in prison started in their home first. And they all talked about their relationship. There was a black guy there who, you already mentioned him though, right? He said he's going to talk to his mother.
No, that was the white guy that I told you about.
But remember the black guy that was, he said that
was that the guy that was setting up for us and kind of?
No, he was sitting over where he looked like he had a stroke or something.
Oh, I don't remember.
And he asked about how he should tell his mother. He wanted to
Oh
tell his
yeah.
mother that he resented her, and so he wanted to know how should he do it. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And she was gonna come to visit him or something, and so I told him that he should just let her know that he resented her for whatever that she did to him, and that he was sorry for that now, because what it had done to him, the anger has done to him. It was wrong for what his mother did, but he's wrong for hating her because it separated him from God and caused him to do things he wouldn't ordinarily do. He was really happy about it. He came over later and shook my hand.
Yeah.
He looked like he had a stroke or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
He was worried. You told him not to worry about how his mother may react.
Oh, yeah. He was worried about how she's going to react once he tell her that. And I said, don't be concerned about that at all. Oh, yeah, because I said, if she falls out and die, just look at it and say, oh, wow, that's interesting. She's dead. And I wonder if she has life insurance. And take the insurance and have a cheap funeral and keep the rest of the money. Because a lot of parents, fathers and mothers in some cases, will not say, I'm sorry. They would carry on as though you're doing something wrong by pointing out what they did and saying sorry for hating you for it. They will want you to hold on to that so that they can feel good about themselves. So you can't really be concerned about that. God said, go and forgive, and he will forgive you. And so I told the guy that. He was so excited about that. It was like something he could not wait to do because he wants to be free. And so that was Thursday night, folks. And then on Friday, when we finally got to the hotel around 9 o'clock or so, I guess, p.m., 9 p.m. And then Friday morning, we up at it again.
Yep. We did we did a pastor's breakfast.
Yeah.
And then we went on, I think it was straight to the Madera County Jail.
Yeah, we did.
And we did there was a Break the Chains program that they created up there to help guys learn trades and stuff and become normal in the world rather than criminals in the world.
The interesting thing about that they had taught them a trade, but some of them were going to prison from jail.
Yeah.
They weren't even.
They just volunteered for the program because maybe it looks
They
good for
needed
their
something to do.
behavior, and yeah, it could be too.
But they're not even getting out to use the trade.
Some of them are not. Yep. So there was nine men and 9 women who were graduating from this program, and they had their families, kids, husbands, wives, parents, boyfriends, girlfriends.
It was sad seeing all those little kids coming to jail to see their parents in jail, father and mother in jail.
Yeah.
That was something else. I would not want to grow up that way.
Some of them spoke, and one guy brought his little daughter up to their.
He ran up there.
Uh-huh. Yeah, he let
her. She
right.
ran, and he just let her stay.
Uh-huh. It was so nice.
Yeah.
But some of them, well, you didn't get to interact with them as much.
No, I just spoke at the graduation about forgiveness and anger and repudiated the parents for setting their children up to fail.
But you could tell people loved it. They, even though they didn't get a chance to Q&A with you,
Right.
they interacted with you still. One of them even came back as we were outside, one of the grandmothers or something.
A grandmother, a Hispanic woman, came back. She was on her way to her car, and she turned around and came and talked about how grateful she was at what I said. And she was an elderly woman.
Yeah.
And how grateful she was when I talked about anger and forgiveness, because she hated her mother, right?
Yeah, and mothers. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and mothers. And that she hated her mother. And did she say she ever forgave her?
Maybe today. Maybe that day she did.
Yeah. And she was an elderly woman and came back and said she really loved that because she hated her mother growing up as well.
Yeah, and she just seemed like such a nice Hispanic grandmother.
Yeah. She did.